Welcome back to campus, Minute Maniacs. This is UMass Sports Weekly, your number one source for all things UMass sports. I'm your host, Tommy Kaludi, and everybody keeps telling me my face is red because of spring break. I didn't go anywhere on spring break, so I don't know why it is. I guess I just look like that. Anyway, enough about that before I get mad. We're going to talk about UMass sports, and first we're going to talk about the men's basketball team, wrap up their season, look forward to next season, and then we're going to have a special NCAA March Madness segment with Phil Sanzo and Liam Byrne teaming up. After that, John Anderson and Liam Byrne are going to talk to you about the men's lacrosse team finally breaking the top 20 ranks. It was an exciting week in UMass sports, and we have a lot to get to. It's going to be a great show. So stay tuned, and remember, Victor Cruz comes right after this, and he's always great. So enjoy the show, stay tuned, and this is UMass Sports Weekly.
This is UMass Sports Weekly.
What do I keep telling you about that Cruz guy? He's great. Anyway, the men's basketball team went in as a 10 seed in this year's A10 tournament. Now, the Minutemen had a record under 500, so the only way for them to make the NCAA tournament was to win the A10 tournament. As we all know, they didn't do that, but they did make some noise. I'm here with Phil Sanzo, who's going to talk about that. Phil, we had a big win two Thursdays ago against URI.
Right.
I believe they were a 5 seed in the A10 tournament.
I believe so.
So we have a big win there. Then we go up against VCU. What happened in that game?
Well, they got outplayed. VCU was the number 2 seed in the A10, and VCU just was aggressive with them, and they did things that VCU played more aggressive than they played when they lost to UMass at the Mullins Center. When they lost to UMass, they were kind of in the middle of the rut of their season, and I think it might have given UMass fans a little false sense of hope. And VCU put that to rest quickly, especially in the second half. First half wasn't that bad, actually. UMass, I believe they were trailing, but UMass was close with it. Second half, VCU pulled away. It was really UMass's. They were talent-wise, UMass wasn't as good as VCU. We all knew that. And UMass continued with their problem of finishing. They've had that problem all season long, the ability to put games away. We saw against URI, they had a commanding lead in the second half, and it almost got away from them. Almost a 20-point lead turned into 6 by the end of the game. So, I mean, that was the Minutemen season, and it was the doom of their season against VCU.
And we can't forget the defensive rebounding totals.
Yeah.
VCU, I think, actually doubled our defensive rebound. So big
men
did not get it done all year, but we're going to foreshadow how that might change next year.
Right.
So Phil, I just want you to wrap up real quick. What were maybe the 2 highlights, and I say the 2 because I'm talking of 2 players specifically, foreshadowing. What were the 2 really highlights of this season that Minutemen fans can look back on and be proud of or happy about? Well,
you got to look back at Trey Davis, 1,000 points, Jabari Hines, 1,000 points. I mean, ends of their UMass career, and they went out really well. Trey Davis had a tremendous season. Jabari Hines started off the season hot, became a bench player, but really did his work. Whenever Jabari Hines got hot this season, or maybe he had a good game, UMass ended up winning. So, I mean, he was a tremendous help for this team for the years he was here. And Trey Davis also was the go-to guy all season. But a guy also came to his own was Dante Clark. I mean, that we've been talking about this all year. Me, you, and Tim have been talking about how Dante Clark,
really came into
Jabari Hines, Trey Davis, they were the 3 to go to. And really, Dante Clark's a promising athlete for the future of UMass sports, especially in UMass basketball. I mean, it's a very promising future, which we'll talk about shortly, and Dante Clark's going to be a big part of that.
Now, when you mentioned promising future, Derek Kellogg had a big summer last summer
when
it came to recruiting. And at UMass, we're a school that's known for bringing in smaller level players that end up elevating their game. That wasn't the case this offseason. No. What happened when Derek Kellogg went down to, I believe it was New Orleans to recruit?
Yep. Well, he got he got a top 100 recruit. He got the best recruit the Minutemen got was Dejan Giroux, a shooting guard from New Orleans. He's a 4-star athlete according to ESPN with a grade of 83. He's the best recruit they got. I'll go down the list though of guys. I made a nice list here of everyone they got, the big recruits. Got Dejan Giroux, a shooting guard, like I said. Chris Baldwin, a power forward, a 4-star and a 80 grade. Bryson Gresham, a teammate of Giroux in high school, a center, a 3-star at 78 grade. Unique McLean, shooting guard, 3-star at 75 grade. Thing about McLean is he went to the McDuffie School in Granby. So just down the road from here, he went to McDuffie School, a private school, and now he's going to be playing with the Minutemen come next season. And recent signing was Turn Flowers, a small forward who's another 3-star recruit and a 75 grade. So the Minutemen definitely had a tremendous recruiting season, top 25 according to ESPN recruiting class. So that phenomenal for the Minutemen, and it's really exciting, especially going forward. I mean, we haven't had a recruiting class. We haven't had possibly this much excitement going into a season since the tournament year? A few years. I mean, especially these past 2 years, like we talked about at the beginning of this year, we knew this year was going to be a transition year.
Absolutely.
We knew this year wasn't going to be anything special. So now we're finally past that, and we can get going now into the good years of it.
Also, side note, want to congratulate UMass alums Raphael Putney and Ketty Lane for making the D-League All-Star Games. Congratulations to the two of them. Ketty could be getting a ring by the end of the year.
Good.
So, Phil, just to wrap up, I just want to ask you, obviously the biggest, most glaring weakness on this team was rebounding.
Right.
Now, you got Rashawn Holloway. The talent is there. Drops a couple pounds, gets in shape. He could be a very, very key player going forward. You have Dante Clark. You replaced Hines maybe with Gresham.
Right.
Do you think they fill the needs of big men good enough with this draft class?
We're gonna find out. I mean, Gresham is a tall guy. He's a backup center. We have forwards in Turn Flowers and Chris Baldwin, also tall men. I mean, we have Malik Hines, he was a freshman this year and he was a backup off the bench. It wasn't terrible. He actually had a pretty decent year. We might see him grow into more of himself. But yeah, big man was a problem for the men this year. But really, Rashawn Holloway, big man in all regards, over 300 pounds and over 6'11" or something. He's a big man. He loses a few pounds and he gets into shape. I mean, you definitely see the potential he has. Against URI, he was one of the stars in the URI game. I mean, when they were starting to lose it in the second half, it was Rashawn Holloway that really kept them in that game with his play under the basket. So I'll just give you my starting 5 for next year. We'll see. Who knows how accurate it is. I mean, I'm no expert. But you have Rashawn Holloway as a center, who's going to be a sophomore. Got Dante Clark at guard, he'd be a junior. Dejan Giroux, another guard, who's his freshman season. Chris Baldwin, forward, freshman season. And you have C.J. Anderson, who's going to be a guard and a junior. C.J. Anderson's kind of my wild card for next year because he started off on the bench, but you saw him getting more starting time as the season progressed. And I think everyone who watched it could admit that C.J. Anderson did have a very nice year throughout. And he really helped them in, man. It was almost an unexpected help, I think, in my opinion. But I definitely see you're going to see improvements from Rashawn Holloway. Hopefully he loses some weight and he can just improve over the offseason from a very good freshman year. Dante Clark, we talked about. And it'll be interesting to see Dejan Giroux and Chris Baldwin. I mean, Chris Baldwin, a Massachusetts kid. Dejan Giroux, a top 100 recruit. So we'll see what happens with those two guys. It's sure to be exciting, and I'm going to say right now, who knows? They might not make the tournament next year because it will be the first year of some of these freshmen, the first year in the new line.
Understandable.
Who knows how well they'll gel together? I mean, this is a pretty new team now. I mean, the familiar faces are gone. The familiar faces from a couple of years ago, no Davis, you got no Hines, no Bergatino. I mean, a couple of years ago, Esho and everything, and Lane, all those guys are gone. So you have the new team that Derek Kellogg's going to mesh together.
This is Kellogg's first year, I believe, where it's just completely his. These are all completely his recruits.
So it'll be really interesting to see from this year and the next 4 years with these guys where we end up.
There you have it, UMass fans. Keep tabs over the summer. Remember to follow UMass Sports Weekly. We'll have updates over the summer on how this team's doing. It's going to be, as Phil says, could be a great year next year and definitely something to watch. Thanks a lot, Phil.
Yep.
Now, don't touch that dial because when we come right back, we're going to be talking about some March Madness. So stay tuned because it's going to get crazy. Welcome back into the show. Now, if you're like me, and I know you are, your bracket is destroyed. There's just no coming back from it. I mean, you got Michigan State losing. I had Purdue and Arizona going to the Elite Eight. Call me crazy. It's just what I had. But anyway, it's always interesting to talk about what people think about March Madness and what some of our analysts are thinking. So I'm here again. Phil Sanzo is back. Liam Byrne. We'll get the laptop. Keep you up to date with stats. Now, guys, first I want to talk about, I had my Final Four: Kansas, Oklahoma, West Virginia, call me crazy, Michigan State. Michigan State really worked me over.
Oh, same here.
Yeah.
I mean, Michigan State, I took them out to dinner and they left before they could pay the bill. And that's as appropriate as I'll get with that.
I think we were on the same date.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk to you guys. Besides Michigan State, I mean, probably one of the biggest upsets in college basketball history. What do we think is the biggest upset in this tournament so far?
Oh man, there's a ton of them. I mean, let's think. Let's look here. I had Seton Hall. No, Seton Hall was an interesting story with it because Seton Hall going to the tournament for the first time since I think it was 2009. They had very high expectations. A Gonzaga team that really wasn't all that great this year, and now you have Gonzaga being Seton Hall, and it was. I listened to an interview actually with Seton Hall's coach on WFAN radio in New York, and he was saying how they didn't like their drawing. They were Drew 6. They thought they could have been better than that, and they got stuck in Denver, which is a far trip to go, especially Seton Hall, New Jersey team.
In Denver.
The coach said that.
You just can't breathe.
You can't. No.
The coach said
Never been there, but.
the coach said every player has his own oxygen tank with him.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's what he said. He said every player's getting his own oxygen.
Even former UMass player Derek Gordon?
Even former U.S. player Derek Gordon.
UMass.
UMass.
All right, so we got Phil thinking Seton Hall over Gonzaga. I mean, or Seton Hall not beating Gonzaga. I mean, when you think about it, Gonzaga did not have that great of a year. They had, I think, between 9 and 14 losses, which isn't the standard Gonzaga is held up to. So
Yeah.
not a bad pick. Liam?
I'd have to say Arkansas Little Rock over
That would
Purdue.
be my pick.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks,
That
Purdue.
was-
Thank you.
Yeah.
Had you gone to the Elite Eight.
Definitely
Purdue.
did not help Tommy. But Arkansas Little Rock, you don't hear about them the whole season, and they come in and they beat a team like Purdue, who's, their basketball team has been nationally known for the longest of times, as long as I can remember.
Right.
And just Arkansas Little Rock, like you knew they weren't going to go up against Iowa State and beat them in the round of 32, and they didn't. But it's just like one team, that can do it for you, like Michigan State. Killed my bracket.
And Purdue has been a solid in the tournament. Purdue's one of those
They
teams.
have, yeah.
Purdue is a team that beat Michigan State
Right.
this year. They beat Wisconsin, who is, we'll get to them in a little bit, making some noise. I mean, and I believe they beat Kansas. They were a juggernaut.
Yeah, and like you, I have Purdue either going to the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight because Purdue's a solid pick usually in a tournament. They're usually good for a round or two, and I
they have
thought
A.J.
that.
Hammond, one of the best players in the country, up for National Player of the
And
Year.
I'm
Probably won't win it.
I'm pretty
but
sure the Purdue Little Rock game went into overtime or
It
two
went into
overtime.
double overtime.
And I'm like, are you kidding me right now, Purdue? And I looked at my phone, I realized that they lost to some team I'd never heard of before, a team that didn't last any further than that. And I was like, the only thing that could have accepted me if Purdue lost is the fact if Little Rock could have made a run, but then they lost 78-61 to Iowa State. So it's another team I didn't think Iowa State was all that great this season. They had a good win over, I think it was Kansas earlier in the year.
But speaking of double overtime games, how about that the Stephen F. Austin game?
Oh, yeah.
And Texas A&M.
No,
there was Northern Iowa and
Northern
Texas
Iowa.
A&M.
Now,
Yeah.
hear me out on this one. I had
Double
Northern
overtime.
Iowa beating Texas and Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. Now, part of me thinks Northern Iowa shaved points
Oh, wow.
because
Oh.
they gave up, I believe, 12 points in 40 seconds.
Yeah.
That's some Tracy McGrady stuff.
That is, yeah.
No,
Did you see how that happened,
That
though?
lost me a ton of money, too. Thank you, Northern Iowa.
that was just one of those things
I love the Midwest.
wasn't it 12 points with a minute or two
No,
left?
it's like 30 seconds.
30, it was less than that?
12
30
points in
seconds.
40
Oh
seconds.
my god! I was watching.
It
I'm
was
like,
the craziest
it's
sequence
like,
of events.
You just see the score going down. Like you see a bad break, like a bad pass, and then Texas A&M gets them back. Like, oh, okay, bad pass.
Yeah,
unlucky.
Texas A&M put them on the press, so they were really pushing the press and everything.
And that just kept happening.
Yeah.
Before you knew it, you're like, what is going on right now?
Exactly. Crazy game.
One of the games though, I thought. Every year, whenever I make my bracket, I kind of pick one sleeper team. So, it happens every
Everyone
year.
has to.
You have to.
Northern Illinois. Had them going to the Elite Eight. What happened, Northern Illinois?
Mine was
Not a bad idea.
Mine was St. Joe's. We watched St. Joe's this year. DeAndre Bembry had a fantastic year, not even just the A-10 of all conferences. And I really thought St. Joe's was going to make a run. I think I had him going to the Elite Eight. And I really had them. I had them beating who they played, Cincinnati first round. I had them beating Oregon. And then I'm watching the Oregon game. You see St. Joe's. They were neck and neck until the end. And then they blew it. They had the opportunity. DeAndre Bembry, they had enough time. I think they were 3 down. and DeAndre Bembry had the ball, and they had enough time to shoot the three and to push it to overtime, and he freaking fumbled it. He bounced it. He tried getting fancy with it, and he dropped it away, and they thought it was good. They tried jumping on it to make it a jump ball, but they turned it into, I think it was a flagrant because one of the guys tackled the Oregon guy.
I think it was just a regular foul.
That's usually
Wasn't
tough.
it a foul? And it was like, it just went right
Tackling
down.
usually doesn't go over too well.
So that was one of the games. I thought St. Joe's really had a chance to make some noise in this tournament. For the first time in a long time, St. Joe's name is not something you hear a common name in the
All right, guys. So we have some teams left. I have Kansas going all the way. I mean, with Perry Ellis leading the way, it's going to be tough to stop them. You have Oklahoma and Buddy Hield. UNC still in it. Marcus Prage, Bryce Johnston. Virginia still in it. Give me your revised Final Four. If you're making a bracket from here on out, who are you putting in it?
I got UNC versus Kansas in the tournament in the final. So I have UNC, Kansas, Oklahoma, and now that Michigan State's out, I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna have to go with the good old Syracuse. I mean, it's Syracuse, Gonzaga, Iowa State, Virginia, and I never picked Virginia because they just
No. You never picked Georgetown. Georgetown 3 years in a row. You go to the Sweet. Thank you, Georgetown.
I have to go against Virginia. I'll go with actually underdog this year, Syracuse being 10th seed. So I have UNC winning it all over
All right,
Kansas.
Liam, revised bracket.
My revised, are we just going Final Fours?
Yep.
Yeah, Final Fours. Kansas, definitely. Oklahoma. Don't sleep on Duke. Don't sleep on Duke.
Can't sleep
They've
on Duke.
They've kind of had an easy way to get here,
Right.
but don't sleep on them. You know, they've had a lot of experience in March. And then my fourth and final team, man, it's tough.
You got. I'll remind you. You got Virginia.
I have to say UNC.
UNC. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, my Final Four, just to end this segment, Kansas is going to go all the way. And bold prediction, this is also on ESPN.com, but, whatever. I think Kansas will win every game by 10-plus points the rest of the way. Coming out of the West, Oklahoma, Buddy Hield leading the way, National Player of the Year. UNC will stay strong. And lastly, Iowa State, George Niang, he's going to lead them. It's been a fun March, guys. Thanks for coming on.
No problem, Tommy.
Absolutely.
That's it for us for basketball. When we come back, we're going to talk about a couple more upsets on behalf of the men's lacrosse team. Stay tuned. And there's our favorite audience. Now, the UMass men's lacrosse team did 3 things over our spring break. They picked a goalie, Dan Dolan, which we'll talk about, and then they beat 2 ranked teams, national powerhouse UNC and Penn State. I'm here with Liam Byrne and John Anderson. Now, guys, obviously, big 2 weeks for the UMass men's lacrosse team.
Yeah.
First game against UNC. I mean, going into games against Ohio State, Brown, you don't give the Minutemen much of a chance, but at least you throw that, whimper of hope. UNC, you don't really expect them to win. So, Liam, what happened in this game? What had them turn it?
Everything, apparently. I mean, the UMass Minutemen beat the North Carolina Tar
UNC.
Heels. The Tar Heels.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What year is
A
it?
powerhouse in men's college lacrosse. UMass got a great win, and it's great before spring break to start. Especially going into the rest of their season, coming up in conference play as well. So this was led by 2 underclassmen, Dan Dolan and Tyler Bogart, and Dolan with 18 saves in this one. Bogart had a hat trick, and as you can see here on the graphic, UMass as a team put up 35 shots and were 8 for 25 on faceoffs, which was not the best. And then they had 15 turnovers. That was compared to UNC's 14, as you can see there. UNC led the game in shots with 44, and their faceoffs they got the ball more than UMass. Significantly. So as you can see there, Dan Dolan, he started the whole game, career high 18 saves. So UMass finally picked a goalie between Dan Dolan and DJ Smith. They were fighting for that battle for a little while. And I'm glad they finally did, because now they'll have some consistency going into the conference play, which starts April 2nd against Delaware. So the scoring was all over the place for the Minutemen here, as Brendan Haggerty scored, Dan Mueller, Ben Spencer, they all had 2 goals. Jake Lasaskis, Gianni Bianchin, Jake Marino, and Tyler Weeks each had 1 goal. But on the defensive end, don't forget the defensive end. It's key. It's key.
You always got to remember the back end. Defense wins championships.
It does.
3 seasons.
Yeah. Senior captain Kyle Karaska scooped up 3 ground balls. And for the defense overall, UMass caused 9 turnovers. But a story that was off the field, but influenced on the field as well, was the star of the game, freshman Tyler Bogart. He lost his uncle to a battle of leukemia before the game on March 9th, I believe. Yes, March 9th. A long battle of leukemia, and he dedicated the win over UNC, to his uncle. So our condolences to Bogart and his family, and hopefully he continues on to be playing great as the conference
All right, so
goes.
You get the win against UNC. You're feeling great, all right? Yeah, you just drank a 5-hour energy.
Things are going.
Yes. Then you go up against Penn State, another surprising team, I would say, for lacrosse. Usually not as good as they are. Usually hanging around the top, I'd say 50 RPI teams, but not as good. This year, number 18. UMass goes into Penn State, I believe, and what do, John?
They win.
They win again.
Quick note on Tyler Bogart. His father is actually the college roommate of my youth lacrosse coach.
Yeah, small world.
Fun, small world, yeah.
Very small world.
And he comes up to me before every game and talks to me. So I would say I'm close to the family. I'm within the family some way. I don't know what that makes me in relation to them. But
right.
Tyler Bogart actually did go to Catholic Memorial.
Sons? Friends?
We'll figure it out.
We can figure that one out. But they did win 11-9, 31-21 ground balls. And that was the
deciding factor.
Yeah, that was a very big, but I think a better deciding factor is what Tom Myers did. And if we look at the players of the game, or who I selected as the players of the game, that would be Buddy Carr and Tom Myers. Buddy Carr, 3 goals, been paving the way all year for the Minutemen.
You call him the steamroller.
I call him our Buddy Carr, actually. There's a story behind that I'll tell you off the air. But
So you call him Buddy Carr?
Yeah, that is his
name.
name.
Buddy Carr.
Tom Myers. Tom Myers also 16 out of 24 faceoffs. This week, Coach Cannella finally decided to give Noah Rack and Charlie Schatz the axe on the faceoff dot and decided to just roll with the freshman Tom Myers, who in the last 2 games before this was 11 of 17 on the faceoff dot. And he was the one that you go on the field, you knew you had a much better chance of winning the faceoff than you did otherwise. Also, 2 goals from Dan Muller and Ben Spencer. So they had great performances. Haggerty, Lasoska, Spinney, Consoletti. Goaltending, though, not as great as you would think this game for the Minutemen. Dan Dolan only made 4 saves the entire game. That goes to the defense. That goes straight to those close to the 3 senior captains, the close D. So Dan Dolan allowed 9 goals. They're not gonna. I don't see them going back to DJ Smith. I had so many puns prepared for DJ Smith too. So I'm very.
Can we hear one?
Well, have you ever read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy before?
Heard of it.
Yes.
Number 42. That's the meaning of life, according to that book. So I was gonna start calling him the meaning of life, and I was very upset when they went with Dan Dolan. But
maybe he'll. I don't know. Maybe Dolan won't do that well. Hopefully he'll get to use your pun. I don't know.
I mean he did have a great game against UNC, so that's why they're gonna roll with him. And if the defense is playing this good, combined with him being hot. Really, the only team that is in UMass's way the rest of the season. Hofstra did get ranked as well, so Hofstra, but no.
Towson as well.
It's Towson.
Yeah,
Towson is their last challenge.
Not
Delaware's
to be
3 and 6.
confused with the Who lead guitarist Pete Townsend.
This is Towson.
Towson.
There's a difference.
There's a difference.
It's like toe, like toe in a
Son.
car, son. Like
son.
I'm a son.
Yeah.
Not the guitarist for the Who. So that's really their last test. They're gonna roll right through Delaware. They're gonna roll right through Fairfield. Fairfield always gives them trouble. So Fairfield in a few weeks, but Delaware. It's on to Delaware next week at Delaware, and I'll be there for the game. Norm Smith calling it with me on WMUA. So it's gonna be a wild ride taking on the Blue Hens.
All right, last question, guys.
Yep.
What do the Minutemen need to do to keep this up and stay ranked? More importantly, not just stay ranked, but move up in the ranks.
I'd have to say they win the majority of their conference games. Yeah.
You know, I did not expect that as a key to victory
Well,
going forward.
well, no. I mean, they've had success only winning some of their conference games in past years. You know, they only went like 3-2 last year, and got to the championship.
They went 2 and 3.
2 and 3.
They went 2 and 3. They snagged the 4 seed in the CAA tournament. Ended up beating Fairfield, the 1 seed, and then lost by 1 goal to Towson.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with the CAA. Only one of these teams is making the tournament. Whoever wins the CAA will make the tournament.
Yeah, it's a 6-team
unless
conference.
unless there a year emerges where there's like 2 or 3 powerhouses in the conference, but that's not the case in this league.
They can get away with at least one loss in their conference to stay ranked. They have to stay ranked as far as they have to just keep winning.
But again,
obviously.
you don't got to stay ranked to make the tournament.
True.
True.
What do they got to do?
Well, staying ranked is pretty much just a consolation prize. But like I said before, it's Towson. Last year, they lost to Towson in the CAA championship by 1 goal 9-8. Earlier in the season, I went down there for the game. oh my God, it was like watching paint dry. It was like molasses flown in January. 6-3 was the final score, and most of that scoring came in the first half. It was a brutal game, especially on UMass's side. So, but this year, even though with the losses of Zach Oliveri, Austin Spencer, Nick Mariano, it looks like UMass actually took a step forward this year as opposed to a step back. And Gianni Biancan also has been named to the Tuarton Award watch list, which goes to the best lacrosse player in the country.
There you have it. A lot to look forward to for this men's lacrosse team. And there's a lot to look forward to with UMass Sports Weekly. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen this week. That's all the time we have for today. Don't worry, we'll be right back here next week to talk about more UMass sports. I'm your host, Tommy Kaludi. Remember, you can be watching Periscope right now. You don't need to watch it on the TV. We have a YouTube. Remember to watch the YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Watch our updates on Twitter. We have a Snapchat, an Instagram. Social media, just
Follow me on Twitter.
follow him, Sergeant Pepper, me at T. Kaludis. Let's get this show on the road. Have a good week, UMass.